get the water, and that is nothing. It's a rip-off.
I call the honourable member Dennis O'Rourke.
First of all, by setting out what National's legacy is going to be as a result of the passage of this bill, if indeed it does pass. In fact, there will be 5 legacies. First of all, the glass will be empty when it comes to water rights for power generation in this company. Secondly, the cupboard will be bare when it comes to energy generation assets in this country. Thirdly, we will still be as deeply indebted at the end of this process as we were at the beginning. There's no doubt at all that this government's objective of achieving a surplus in 2014 is totally unrealistic. We will still have the debt at the end of that, and it will be just about as much as we have now. That's a result of government mismanagement, and it won't be saved by the sale of these assets. And fourthly, we'll have higher power prices for everybody in this country. Most people believe that. They believe it simply because that is what will happen when overseas purchasers get hold of the majority of the shares in these companies, as they will eventually, and they will do that because they know that the ownership of these companies and the control of these companies is almost a licence to print money, simply because of the degree of dominance these companies have in the New Zealand energy market. And fifthly, of course, for the same reasons I've just outlined, we will have compromised New Zealand's economic sovereignty. And that is what most people think is a complete disgrace, and that's the main reason for most of the objections. Mr. Chairman, I also want to reply to Bill English, who made a speech earlier today, and he goaded Labor about not making a commitment to buy back these shares. And I would like also Labor to commit to a buyback of these shares, and I would like to hear from the Greens as well on that issue. Because, Mr. Chairman, New Zealand First has made that commitment and has made it unequivocally. But I, in fact, also want to challenge in return Mr. English and National to also commit to and to agree to a clause in this bill empowering shareholding ministers to buy back these shares, and at no more than the price that was originally paid for them when they are sold by the Crown. I challenge Mr. English and National to do that. So if Mr. English thinks it was smart to goad the other parties, let him put his actions where his words were and to commit to exactly the same thing, because, Mr. Chairman, as I have said, New Zealand First has made that commitment unequivocally, and I want to hear that from all of the other parties as well. And, Mr. Chairman, it makes sense. It makes sense to commit to buy back these shares simply because these shares are such a good investment. And that's why they will be popular in the marketplace, because people know that they're worth buying. And New Zealand First doesn't deny that. New Zealand First understands that. And that's why they shouldn't be sold in the first place. And that's why New Zealand First will buy them back if it ever gets the chance to do so. And I think we will. And, Mr. Chairman, another thing is this. Because of the dividend stream, including both ordinary and capital dividends, it makes no economic sense for these shares to be sold. In fact, they are profitable shares. They are worth more for their dividend stream than the cost of servicing loans if they were sold. Now, Mr. Chairman, it will be profitable and economically responsible to buy them back, because over recent years the average return from these companies has been 16% or more over recent years, and that's the truth. If you include both capital and ordinary dividends, that's the fact, and that is exactly why we should be keeping them. At the same time, Mr. Chairman, the cost of borrowing by government is usually less than 4%, so it makes absolutely no sense whatever to sell these shares. In addition to that, of course, there is capital growth in these companies as well, and that should accrue to New Zealanders and not to some overseas purchaser of them. So New Zealand First's proposal in the SOP in the name of Winston Peters is to make it possible, at the option of the shareholding ministers, to compulsorily buy back these shares, and at not more, Mr Chairman.
I call the honourable member Paul Goldsmith.
Thank you, Mr